This is Rebel Momma Pod, where we talk about what's not in the brochure about ADHD, midlife, burnout, and more. This is your host, Sarah Castañeda. I've been interviewing experts and patients on this topic for more than 7 years. I'm excited to have with me today Jamie Lee. Jamie Lee helps smart women who don't like office politics get promoted and better paid without throwing anyone under the bus. Welcome to Rebel Momma Pod, Jamie.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so good to reconnect with you.
Yes. Let's start with telling everyone about you. What are you about and how did we cross paths?
We met, oh my goodness, was it like 10 years ago? We met at Bullish Conference, which was a conference for feminists, aggressive lady advice for business, career, and life, organized by the Dynamite Jen DeZera.
That's right.
And I think we met at 2 conferences, right? Over 2 conferences. I remember going to them back to back into 2014, 2015. And we hit it off. And when I started my coaching practice in 2018, you were one of my very first one-on-one clients.
Wow.
And I remember being really delighted that I get to work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came in as you were leaving the BullCon scene. I came in the year after you left, but we met in the community. That's how we met. And I was part of your power hour. You remember the power hour? And I loved that so much. It was so cool. But yeah, we met through BullCon. Definitely. That is
okay. So we didn't meet in person at the conference. We met because I organized, like it was like a virtual co-working thing.
Yeah,
I did it for several months.
Yes. And it
Yeah,
was
that
the
was
coolest
great.
thing in the world. I loved that tool.
Was
I
it?
mean, it was such a cool tool to use for, managing overwhelm. So, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, I did it because I needed it too. Especially nowadays, so many of us working from home or working remotely, we end up working by ourselves and we lose that element of community. And so the power hour was basically a bunch of us, I think it was like 4 or 5 women, and we got together every other day for 3-hour chunks. And we just verbally committed to, I'm going to write this post. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to write this application. And then we would check in. And so we had this built-in accountability. And it was just, it was just community support for each other. And I did it because I needed it.
It was incredible. And it was before its time because, as we all know, once the pandemic hit, that was the way of life. And everyone's doing it now. But this was like before it was the norm. Just we were all looking for people in my mind. It was so cool to find other people who worked like that. It was a novel thing at the time.
Yeah. And I ran a version of that again recently too. But the power hour, yeah, that was great. That was great. We had great energy in that group. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you been up to since those power hour days?
For the past 10 years, I've been building and coaching and speaking, mostly to professional women, sometimes co-ed mixed groups. I've traveled to quite a lot of places, especially leading up to the pandemic. I went to Africa. Right now I'm in Japan. And I gave a talk in Africa. Japan is more like a workcation. I'm not here to give a talk. But I've been building my coaching practice and helping women get to the C-suite or make themselves the CEO of their career, business, and life.
I love that.
And I've not been very meticulous with the accounting, but once I sat down, I'm like, I wonder how much money I've helped people, make in addition to the income they already had through coaching with me. And I like did a back of the envelope math, and I realized it's at least $3 million and counting. Because some of my clients, they secured pay raises, bonuses, or equity compensation that they negotiated, and then some of them became widely successful as entrepreneurs, and they would share with me, "Oh yeah, I think I've just secured a 7-figure deal or something," and then I like, that's of course the extreme end, and then I like did a back of the envelope math. I'm like, "Wow, I've helped women increase their income by at least $3 million and counting." So that's something I'm proud of.
That's incredible, Jamie. Incredible.
Thank you.
What a garden you have left in bloom. Not left, you're still coaching. I don't know why I said it's like you're retiring, but 3 million so far. I mean, geez, that's incredible.
Well, it's cumulative, right? It's like across several people. And growing, because once you achieve a certain income level, it becomes easier to make that much money and more. So yeah, I mean, the goal is to help women with everything going on, so much noise in the world, and some people would also say DEI has been attacked in the last couple of years. But working mothers, working women, professional women, we're not going away. We're more educated than ever. We're more equipped with technology. Some people utilize AI and everything that's available to help accelerate their professional journey. And we're not going away. Our economic potential is not something that can be just brushed aside. So I really do believe, even though money is not everything, it is one measure of success. And when women have more money, as Sally Krawcheck famously said, nothing bad happens. And when mothers have more money, when neurodivergent women have more money, when minority women have more money, what we do is we give it back to our community. We invest it back into our families and people and causes that matter. So I feel very passionate about helping women get promoted, get better paid, even if it means they become their own bosses in the process.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. We're not going anywhere.
That's right.
So who are you helping these days? What is it like out there? It's a jungle. I'm sure you hear all kinds of stories and
I help mid-career, mostly senior to executive level women. And the executive level women that I coach, they benefit from stress reduction, also just getting clear on what the priorities are, because there is just so much work and they feel sometimes overloaded. I also have I really enjoyed working with women who are neurodivergent on the spectrum, or they know that they have ADHD. I mean, I know I do. And, I could be biased, but I have found that, women who know that they have ADHD, when they say that, I also notice they have like high level of creativity, and their imagination is very vivid, and that becomes an asset for the kind of work that they do. Whether that is building code, or whether that is building a marketing strategy, or building something just new and different, right? Because they index for something that is fun, interesting, and something that helps them feel more alive when it comes to the work they do.
Yeah. And we all have a super computer between our ears, right?
Yeah. I believe so. I mean, I feel like, we've used that analogy. I've used that analogy, the supercomputer. Yeah, with everything going on with AI and blah, 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 you're like, uh, it feels tempting. It feels tempting to sort of outsource that
Yeah.
cognitive function to some sort of code, especially, I mean, I'll speak for myself, especially when I'm just overloaded and I don't know, I'm having a, PMS day and my brain is just shrouded in fog. It's just such intense brain fog. Every once in a while, okay, ChatGPT or Gemini, explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader. I ask those questions and it helps, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we still have to remember that all these tools, they don't have a soul. They're not embodied in the flesh. So they don't have that lived experience of a human navigating the world in this meat suit, if you will. And there are different levels of intelligence within us that the AI will never be able to experience and articulate.
Yeah. True. So, you were telling me a little earlier about your health journey and how that has intersected with your neurodivergence. Do you want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah. Um, where do I even begin? I think I'll start with, the fact that I am a woman. I'm a professional woman who's in her 40s. I'm 44. And I always knew that, I navigated the world slightly different than most people, than I guess what you would now call neurotypical people, but I didn't have that vocabulary then, so I just felt like I was the weird one. And then as I got older and I was navigating my own entrepreneurial journey, I realized, especially, the week before my period, my mood would dip. I would have trouble concentrating. And I work with my brain and I help other people work with their brains. And it just felt sort of
Existential.
crippling. Yes, existential, totally. And at first I was researching, I was going online, I was looking for answers, and I thought I had PMDD. This is the intense form of PMS.
Yeah.
And the most common treatment for PMDD is Prozac, is antidepressant. And so I've never really reacted well to any sort of medication. I've always been very sensitive to all that. So I'm like, okay, let's try the lowest dose Prozac I can take. And I don't know, it seemed to help, but not really. And I didn't really like the feeling, that fuzzy, weird feeling that I got from taking an antidepressant.
Yeah.
And then the next year, so I guess when I was 42, I started getting palpitations. And that took me to the ER because I thought there was something really wrong with me. I had trouble breathing. I was deeply fatigued and my heart seemed to be beating it felt very uncomfortable. Like I could feel the heartbeat like right next to my ear, and it felt very, very uncomfortable. And so I went to urgent care. They sent me to ER, and then ER did all the tests, and they're like, "You're normal. Your test came out normal, but you should probably go talk to a cardiologist." So I went to the cardiologist, and then that's when I was also looking online, looking for answers, because sadly, traditional doctors are woefully undereducated about women's health issues. And then I was convinced that I had perimenopause because I read that palpitations, and the brain fog and the mood swings and the energy dip, it could be perimenopause. So I'm like, oh, I must have perimenopause. So I reached out to a telehealth service and I went on hormone replacement therapy. And for the first 2 weeks that I put on an estrogen patch, I felt amazing. I'm like, yes, I can think, I have energy. My heart feels normal. And I thought this must be the answer to life. And I wrote posts about it. I was featured as a success story.
Yeah.
And this is all related to the neurodivergence, because
Yep.
Once I put on the patch, initially I felt so clear. I felt like, oh, I'm capable. Yes, this is the confident me the sparkly Jamie that I that I
Yes.
love, and
Yeah.
people know me for it. But then over time, my symptoms came back and then worsened, and I had gut pain. I couldn't sleep. I had, what people would describe as a hormonal flu. I felt cold and then hot and uncomfortable and achy and sore. And I started getting aura migraines. And I'm like, oh, I'm taking the medication. Why did it stop working? And long story short, I consulted AI and I asked it, I have all these symptoms and it may not be perimenopause. What could it be? And the AI chatbot suggested I have mast cell activation syndrome.
Oh my gosh.
And this is something that, again, is under, what was the right word? Is not well understood in the medical field, in the traditional medical field. It only came into some doctors' attention about 10 years ago. And what it is, mast cells are part of the immune system, and mast cells can degranulate, meaning they can release a number of different chemicals in the body as a way to, protect it from, germs and bacteria, viruses, things to ward off from the body. But what happens is, if somebody gets exposed to too many triggers, both internal and external stimulus triggers, the mast cells can get into an overactivation state, and they're releasing too many chemicals, and those chemicals create systemic issues that can look a lot like perimenopause.
Holy cow.
And it can cause neurological symptoms. And so, yeah, and what I do understand about mast cell activation is that it can partly be due to genetics, the genes that you inherited that can predispose you to mast cell activation, but then it can also be what they call epigenetics, how your body reacts to, external stimulus, external stimuli, and how your genes adapt to stress and other factors. And, it's been stressful. It's been a stressful era, I should say, right? With everything that, people in our age, you and me, Sarah, like we grew up with the 9/11. We were young and we were exposed to that, and then the great financial crisis, and then of course the COVID and the pandemic, and I mean, and it just goes on and on and on. But aside from that, for me, some of the triggers have been being exposed to too much antibiotics. Yeah. So again, back to answering your question.
Yeah.
Neurodivergence, for me, I don't know about, most of the people. For me, once I realized that the underlying root cause of so much of my brain fog and distractibility was actually there is a physical, there's neurochemistry, there is an explanation for this in my body that made so many things make sense for me. Like it made sense why after I eat certain foods, like I feel awful and I need to lie down. If I have a stressful encounter with my life partner at home, like like that distracted the emotional reaction can sometimes feel like it's, wow, that was that was kind of disproportionate to the actual circumstance, the actual, like, oh, it was just about, where you put your shoes in the,
Yeah.
in the entryway or in the mudroom. It's like, okay, we didn't need to get this upset. But now I'm like, oh, it all makes sense. And it all makes sense why, I can't tolerate loud noises, or when it gets too cold or too hot, I feel like, oh my goodness, my system's going to shut down. And it also explains why I chose to be an entrepreneur, because I needed to have the most control over my environment. And so that, this is the best way for me to work for myself as a coach one-on-one, and I can work remotely. And it's all up to my own creativity and drive. So I'm like, oh, so many choices and so many of my own reactions, including the ADHD, made sense for me once I really understood what mast cell activation syndrome is.
Wow. Yeah. That tracks. I've been seeing things on the internet about histamine. So I've been reading up on it more and seeing what, people are doing. So that's crazy that you brought this up. I guess it's finally coming out for the rest of us to catch up.
Right. So histamine intolerance is not always mast cell activation syndrome, but for many people with mast cell activation syndrome, they also have histamine intolerance. And that's because everyone's mast cell activation syndrome looks different. And that's why it's so hard to diagnose. But one of the chemicals that the mast cell can degranulate or release, one of them, the most well-known one, is histamine. And histamine is found in fermented foods, which I loved eating growing up. Like, I'm Korean American, so we grew up eating kimchi like every day. And basically anything that is really tasty and has umami has some sort of histamine because it's been fermented.
Wow.
Yeah. And all the leftovers, if you buy food and you let it sit in the refrigerator for like overnight, it accumulates histamine. And I loved putting things in my refrigerator, eating leftovers. I'm like,
me too. Yeah. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. And you think, oh, I'm being economical. I'm like, I'm being frugal, or I'm not wasting food. But it turned out you're actually ingesting a lot of histamine. And for women who are of a certain age, if you are nearing, well, actually, it doesn't matter, because some young women also experience estrogen dominance, right? There's too much estrogen in the system, and estrogen can also be a trigger to release more histamine in the body. And that's why you can feel so bad the week leading up to your period.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so when I learned about this, I realized the good news is that you can take histamine blockers that are over the counter. Again, I'm not a doctor, so, this isn't medical advice. I'm just sharing what worked for me. Is a lot of over-the-counter supplements help. Like, take, for example, Claritin or Zyrtec, right? The antihistamines that you can take. I know Benadryl makes people very, very sleepy, so you want to be judicious with that. But Claritin, Allegra, and also acid reducer Pepsid AC. If you take that on a consistent basis, it can help reduce block. It's not a reducer. It can help block the histamine that your mast cells may be, or your estrogen may be releasing in your body. And causing different kinds of systemic issues. And also, I had to go on a lot of like magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, as well as different vitamins, because due to the overactivation of the mast cells, it was impacting the minerals and the you do a blood test and you learn like your white blood cells are kind of low, or your
sedimentation rate. Did that change? Did they talk to you about sedimentation rate at all? Did it affect that?
Oh, I don't know to that level of detail, but there was some, yeah. And the crazy thing is, like you go to the doctor's office, you go to a conventional doctor's office, they will almost always draw blood and they'll do a test. But, for some people like me, who have mast cell activation syndrome, it's not like we have an infection. It's not like we have cancer. It's not like we have a broken bone. And so often the doctors will see the blood test and they say, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's kind of strange, but your heart rate is okay. You're breathing okay. Your blood pressure is kind of low, but you seem healthy. So you're probably okay. Right. So they'll just sort of like gloss over the details.
Right.
And that's why, I went to a functional doctor. I went to functional doctor who can review that and tell you in detail. Like, I don't know about what you just suggested, but they were able to really address the nitty gritty and make very pointed suggestions about the kinds of supplements I can take to help address my condition.
I love that.
Yeah.
Functional medicine. It's been on my list for a while now, and this conversation may have tipped the scale because this is also relevant. And
that's another thing. I know I'm going a bit of a rant here, but I think it's really tragic how quality medical care in the United States is hard to come by unless you're willing to spend like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I did a lot of research because I'm like, this shouldn't be so hard. And there are some telehealth services. So you don't go into an office, but you see the doctor online and then they can order tests for you. And I went to a service called ldndirect.com. And it was still hundreds of dollars, but it wasn't like thousands and thousands of dollars to talk to a functional medicine professional to get a functional medicine blood test done. And what was the thing that you were asking me about, Sarah? What was that?
Yeah. So I was asking about sedimentation rate, which is related. I have an autoimmune disorder. I have Hashimoto's, and one of the markers was an elevated sedimentation rate. And it's basically, from what I heard, it's a sign of inflammation that your body's reacting to something. And usually that's like, oh, we need to look into this. And so I'm having one of those mystery, that the only reason I know is because they're having one of those, oh, we don't know what this is. We're going to put this to the side for now, and I'm sure it'll come out later. But yeah, I'm writing all this down. Like the LDN Direct would be super helpful. Functional medicine. Yeah.
Right. And the truth of the matter is conversations like this really matter because, I learned most of this information by talking with AI, talking with Gemini chatbot, and going on Reddit.
Yeah.
Because there's this bifurcation, there's this separation between all of the research that's being done about, these not well understood conditions, autoimmune conditions, mast cell activation, even like chronic fatigue, post-exercise malaise, POTS, like a lot of people or people with long COVID who are still struggling with long COVID, right? I mean, there are millions of people out there, but because conventional medicine isn't really funding the research, even though some of this research is being done in academia, it's not translating to treatment. It's not translating to actual doctors understanding what to do with this information in the conventional, you go to your PCP or your allergist or your rheumatologist, like they don't know because it doesn't fit their model of how medicine is supposed to be. And so like the conversations like you and I are having, there's Reddit and even AI chatbots, like, they're really, really useful because they can access the AI can access the information, the research, and help connect the dots that the doctors can't.
Yep. You can ask, you can know what to ask. You can ask the right questions. So you can finally get answers. That's incredible.
Right.
You get to know what to ask.
Right. Because I was feeling very, very, I'm like, I'm a person who works with a brain. I need to, reduce this. Mast cell activation is also, it can also lead to inflammation. I'm like, I need to address these neurological issues so I can help people. I can help people with their brains. And I learned online from like Reddit and Facebook groups and listening to podcasts that you can take a lot of this information. We can help yourself. Like I learned that some people, what they do is they go to 23andMe and they order a gene test.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing this down. Wow, this is
they order, isn't it? They order a gene test and they get the raw data.
Yeah.
From their gene test, and then they could upload it to these services. Well, they can really do that in a deeper dive of like, do you have certain mutations that predispose you to autoimmune or predispose you to, certain tendencies like there was slow COMT, MTHFR, like all these acronyms
that one.
that yeah. Right. And so you can put the pieces together yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been tested. I'm going to get tested for the BRCA gene soon, but man, I should download the whole genome from 23andMe or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And then I would go to AI. I'm like, okay, how do we make this work? What do people do? And then it explains to me step by step. Right. You could go to, you submit your saliva swab, and then they give you the raw data, and you take the raw data and you pay this other service $125 or something. And then you could get you can figure out what your own mutations are.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, this was very rooted in service journalism. That's what I learned when I was in journalism. And it was like, that's the sweet spot when you're providing service to people with information they can use. And this was just the best episode ever. I mean, I'm going to go back and just re-listen to this and take more notes because you're right. I mean, it's these conversations, they're so important.
Yeah. What I do as a coach is I help women advocate for themselves. And I really feel that as an individual, like advocating for yourself starts with trusting your own body, right? Trusting your own instincts, even when your body is not reacting the way you would like it to.
Right.
And that's so important because conventional medicine that does not fully understand women's bodies or, autoimmune or mast cell activation or long COVID, or like all the things that so many of us are struggling with, or even, ADHD. You have to learn to trust your own instinct about what feels right. Right, because I remember before I went into all the rabbit holes and learned about everything that I can do with, the supplements and everything that I just shared with you, I go to the PCP and my primary care physician and then feel completely overlooked.
Yeah.
Completely, like if I tell them, I have all these pains and I've had them for years and it doesn't feel right. And then they take my vitals and they're like, oh, you've had pains. Okay, you go to rheumatologist, you go talk to some other specialist. I can't help you.
Yep.
You look, right, exactly. Like if they can't understand it, if they can't write you a prescription or something that they know what to do, they just like, what's the phrase? It's say it again.
Stonewall?
Sometimes stonewalled, gaslit.
Gaslit. Yeah, gaslit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's like unintentional gaslighting that happen at doctors' offices. And so, and some people are like, no, the doctors know best. If they tell you have to do it, you take this, or if they tell you to go there, you do that. That's what you have to do. But I just felt like, no, like this person just fundamentally does not understand what I'm experiencing, because it's not something that is, you know, it's not easily understood. But
Right.
I know that something is off and I shouldn't feel this bad. I know I shouldn't feel this bad, whenever I eat like a tomato, or,
Yes.
I eat a little bit of gluten and I feel like, I'm going to come down with the flu and I have to run to the vet. I'm like, that's not right. That's not
No.
right. And there's got to be an explanation. And so I'm bringing it back to self-advocacy, because I think self-advocacy starts with learning to trust yourself, even when these so-called authority figures around you are looking at you like, no, you're wrong. Or like, don't do that. Listen to me. I know better. You know what I mean?
I can't think of a more important conversation to be having right now. It's so important. It's so base level.
Very well.
Trust your body so you can advocate for yourself. And we need that right now.
Yes. And there's no self-advocacy without trusting yourself, especially when other people around you don't understand. And I'm going to make this big leap, but it's not unlike being, the only woman at a male-dominated environment. It's not unlike being like the only neurodivergent person, right? In a neurotypical world. It's not unlike being the only minority, right? In a homogenous place where everyone's like, well, this is how this is, so must be your problem, not, not that, right? It's like I'm rambling now, but
I absolutely
gaslit.
think it's very similar. It's it's an otherness that is not acknowledged openly, but it's
right.
reality. You're dealing with
right.
It's still there,
yeah,
even if it's not acknowledged.
Exactly, the otherness. And thank you. And it takes some effort. It takes some mindset work. It takes courage to be like, yeah, I am different, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. I am having a different experience. It doesn't mean that I disregard my own experience, my own intuition, my own instinct, and my own belief that there's gotta be a solution. There's gotta be a way to help myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect place to put a pin in it, if you're good. Mm-hmm. Where can our listeners find you on the interwebs?
So you can find me on jamieleecoach.com. My name is, it's spelled a lot like Jamie Lee Curtis's, Jamielee. And instead of Curtis, the coach in there, coach.com. I have a really fun and a thought-provoking archetype quiz for people who want to better understand their leadership archetype. And then I offer type-specific self-advocacy strategy and tips. I'm doing a free webinar on May 20th. I don't know when this episode will air, but on May 20th, I'm doing a free webinar called Exit Negotiations for people who, feel ready to graduate from their corporate experiences and be their own boss, but want to be set up financially, mentally, emotionally to do it so that they can give themselves the break they deserve and be profitable in the process. I've helped a couple of clients do that very, very successfully, and I'm going to walk the audience through the framework that has helped my clients exit and be well taken care of as their own bosses.
Incredible. Thanks again, Jamie Lee.